4-year-old orphan boy kicked out of cemetery for sleeping on grave every night. But a millionaire, weeping for her dead daughter, sees everything. Comment and give my story a rating from 0 to 10. Your opinion is very important. And subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. The rain hammered against the windows of the small room at the back of the modest house, where the 4-year-old orphan boy huddled under a tattered blanket. His little brown eyes were swollen from crying, and his thin body trembled not only from the cold, but from fear of what the morning would bring. Just a week ago, the grandmother who had raised him since he was a baby had passed away, leaving him completely alone in the world. The social worker had been clear. The following Monday, he would be taken to an orphanage in the outskirts of the sprawling metropolis. The boy didn't fully understand what that meant, but he knew he would be separated from the only home he had ever known, and from the municipal cemetery where he used to play with his grandmother on Sundays. It was there that she told him stories about the angels, and where he found peace among the flowers and old tombstones. That same rainy night, the 30-year-old millionaire widow walked through the deserted streets of the city, her tears mingling with the raindrops that fell from the sky. Her blonde hair was soaked, but she didn't care. The pain she carried in her chest was much greater than any physical discomfort. For 2 years, ever since she lost her 4-year-old daughter, she had wandered through the nights without being able to find peace or purpose in life. Her assets in stocks and investments grew automatically in the banks, but all that money meant nothing in the face of the emptiness she felt. The fortune accumulated over the years through successful business ventures seemed like a cruel joke of fate. What good was it to have enough wealth to buy anything if she couldn't buy back what mattered most? The boy decided he wouldn't wait until Monday. With his worn teddy bear tightly clutched to his chest, he slipped out the back door of the house in the middle of the night. His bare feet touched the cold, wet ground, but he kept walking. Something in his child's heart pulled him towards the municipal cemetery, as if it were the only place in the world where he still felt close to someone who loved him. The millionaire, lost in her dark thoughts, took the same path she always took on those sleepless nights. Her footsteps instinctively led her to the cemetery where her daughter rested, the only place where she could still feel some connection with the little girl who had passed away too soon. It had been her routine for 2 years, walking through the empty streets until she reached the iron gate of the cemetery, where she stood outside looking at the shadows among the graves. When she arrived at the cemetery that rainy night, she noticed something different. A small figure was huddled by the gate, shivering with cold. Initially, she thought it was an abandoned animal, but as she approached carefully, she discovered it was a child. The orphan boy had arrived before her and was trying to push the bars of the gate, desperate to get inside. The sight of that helpless child stirred something deep within her wounded heart. For 2 years, she had completely isolated herself from the world, rejecting any meaningful human contact. But there was something in the determination of that little boy that touched her in an inexplicable way. He wasn't crying or screaming, just persistently trying to find a way through the gate. Without thinking twice, the millionaire approached slowly. The boy looked at her with those big, frightened eyes, but didn't run away. She noticed he was holding a teddy bear that looked familiar, although she couldn't identify why. In a soft voice, she asked him what he was doing there alone at this hour. The boy explained in simple words that he needed to visit his special little friend who lived inside. He said that his grandmother always took him to talk to her on Sundays, and that now that his grandmother had gone away forever, he didn't want his little friend to be alone. The pure innocence and kindness of those words made the millionaire's tears fall even more intensely. She managed to open the gate using a key she had kept for 2 years, something she had never done before. The boy ran in ahead, as if he knew exactly the way. To the millionaire's surprise and utter shock, he stopped precisely in front of her deceased daughter's grave. There, The little boy knelt on the wet grass and began to talk softly to the tombstone, as if he were talking to a real friend. The millionaire was paralyzed. How was it possible that this unknown child knew exactly where to find her daughter's grave? How could he know that specific location among hundreds of other graves? Her heart beat erratically as she watched the boy tell the tombstone about how he was afraid of being taken away on Monday and how he didn't want to leave his little friend alone. At that moment, under the cold rain of the early morning, two hearts shattered by loss met in a mysterious way. The millionaire approached trembling, not only from the cold, but from the strange feeling that something much bigger than chance was happening that night. The boy looked at her and smiled shyly, asking if she was also a friend of the little girl who was sleeping there. The boy's innocent question echoed in the millionaire's heart like a lightning bolt on a stormy night. She knelt beside the child, her expensive clothes soaking in the wet grass, and in a choked voice replied that yes, she knew the little girl who was resting there very well. The little one smiled with a purity that she hadn't seen for 2 years, and began to tell details about his special little friend that made the woman's blood run cold. He described the girl's personality with frightening accuracy. He talked about how she liked to draw butterflies, how she was afraid of thunder but loved rain, how she always shared her toys even when she had few. Every word that came out of the orphan child's mouth coincided perfectly with the most intimate memories that the millionaire kept of her deceased daughter. When the boy mentioned that the girl had a teddy bear just like his but pink, the millionaire felt the world spin. She looked at the worn plush toy that the boy was hugging and immediately recognized it. It was identical to her daughter's, only in a different color. The same brand, the same model, even the same patch on the left arm. The following days became an agonizing struggle for the millionaire. She couldn't get that impossible encounter in the cemetery out of her mind. How could a child who had never met her daughter know so many intimate details about her? How could he have arrived at exactly the right grave among hundreds of others? And why was he carrying a teddy bear practically the same? Meanwhile, the orphan boy was taken to the orphanage as scheduled. The place was clean and organized, but cold and impersonal. He shared a dormitory with 15 other children of varying ages, all with their own stories of abandonment and loss. Meals were served at rigid times, baths were quick and supervised, and any demonstration of sadness was quickly discouraged by the overworked caregivers. But what tortured the boy the most was being away from the cemetery. Every night he cried softly in his narrow bed, worried about his special little friend who was now alone. He tried to escape 3 times in the first week, always being captured before reaching the gate of the institution. As punishment, he was forbidden to leave the building for an entire month. The millionaire, in turn, began to visit the cemetery daily, something she hadn't done since the first months after her daughter's loss. She spent hours sitting next to the grave, talking softly to the tombstone, and trying to understand what had happened that rainy night. On impulse, she began to research the orphan boy, discovering through influential contacts his location in the orphanage. The revelation that would change everything came through a casual conversation with the janitor of the commercial building she owned downtown. The elderly woman mentioned that she had lost a very dear former employee a few weeks ago, a dedicated cleaner who raised her grandson alone after her daughter had passed away. The description matched perfectly with the orphan boy's story. Driven by curiosity, the millionaire asked to see the records of former employees. There was the name of the boy's grandmother, who had worked in the building for over 10 years as a night cleaner. Even more shocking was discovering that the woman used to bring pictures of her grandson and talked constantly about him, showing images of a child playing in the same cemetery where her daughter was buried. The investigation revealed something even more disturbing. The boy's grandmother had started working in the building exactly 1 week before her daughter was born, and had resigned on the same day that the girl passed away, 2 years earlier. The dates coincided in an impossible way, as if the destinies of those 3 lives had been intertwined from the beginning. Determined to understand the connection, the millionaire used her influence and financial resources to get a meeting with the boy at the orphanage. When she arrived at the place, wearing simpler clothes so as not to attract attention, she found the child sitting alone in the yard, looking through the fence in the direction of the city. His little eyes were red from crying. The conversation they had that day changed both of them forever. The boy, recognizing her immediately, asked if she had returned to visit the special little friend. When she confirmed, he smiled for the first time in 2 weeks and began to tell more details about his conversations with the girl from the cemetery. He revealed that his grandmother always took him there on Sundays, and that since he was little, he had felt a special connection with that specific tombstone. He said that sometimes he dreamed of a blonde girl with blue eyes who played with him, and that when he woke up, he missed someone he had never met. The physical description matched exactly with her deceased daughter. The most frightening thing was when the boy mentioned that his grandmother used to work in a very beautiful building in the city center, where she knew a very sad woman who had lost her little daughter. He said that his grandmother always spoke of that woman with affection, wishing she could console her in some way. The millionaire realized that the cleaner was talking about her, although they had never spoken directly. During these revelations, an even more shocking discovery came to light. The boy described specific details about the decoration of the millionaire's office, including a photo of her daughter that was on her desk, details that only someone who cleaned that environment regularly could know. The grandmother had told her grandson about every object in that office, including the deep sadness she saw in the eyes of the woman in the photo. At that moment, the millionaire understood that it was not a coincidence, but a much deeper and more mysterious connection. The boy's grandmother had observed her pain from afar for years, and somehow had prepared her grandson to find her. But there were still unanswered questions that tormented her: how to explain the boy's dreams, how to explain his inexplicable attraction to her daughter's specific tomb. When she said goodbye that day, promising to return soon, the boy held her hand tightly and said something that took her breath away. Grandma always said that one day a very good woman would come to pick me up, a woman who had also lost her little daughter and who needed a little boy to take care of. She said I would recognize that woman by the sad but kind way her eyes looked. The child's words echoed in her mind for days, like a prophecy that was finally being fulfilled. The following weeks were a whirlwind of contradictory emotions for the millionaire. She visited the boy at the orphanage regularly, always bringing small gifts and tasty food. With each meeting, the connection between them strengthened in an inexplicable way, but also grew her internal anguish. Allowing herself to love again meant running the risk of suffering another devastating loss, something she wasn't sure she could bear. The boy, in turn, began to flourish with the visits. His naturally generous personality became more evident every day. He divided the sweets he received with all the other children at the orphanage, consoled the little ones when they cried at night, and always found ways to help the caregivers with small tasks. His pure kindness contrasted sharply with the harshness of the institutional environment. During one of those visits, the millionaire discovered something that shocked her deeply. When talking to the director of the orphanage, she learned that the boy had arrived at the institution with only a small suitcase containing his clothes and some personal items from his grandmother. Among these belongings, there was a sealed envelope with instructions to be opened only when the right person appeared to pick up the boy. The director, intrigued by the special attention that this elegant woman showed to the child, decided to open the envelope in the presence of the millionaire. Inside was a letter written in shaky handwriting, clearly by someone very ill. The letter was from the boy's grandmother, and her words made both adult women cry. The letter revealed that the grandmother had spent years observing the millionaire from afar, cleaning her office and seeing her silent pain. She described how her heart broke to see that young and kind woman fading in sadness, and how she wished she could do something to help. The cleaner wrote that she always believed that good people deserved to find other good people, especially when both had suffered similar losses. But what really shook the millionaire was the final part of the letter, where the grandmother revealed that she had started taking her grandson to the cemetery, specifically to her daughter's grave, because she felt that the two children needed to get to know each other in some way. She firmly believed that her deceased granddaughter and the orphan boy could find comfort in each other, even if in ways that adults could not understand. The most disturbing revelation came when the millionaire read that the grandmother had started having dreams about her months before she passed away. In the dreams, she saw the millionaire adopting her grandson and both finding happiness together. These dreams were so vivid and recurrent that the old lady had become convinced they were a kind of divine sign about the boy's future. Driven by these discoveries, the millionaire decided to investigate the boy's grandmother's life more deeply. Using her resources and contacts, she discovered that the woman had been an exemplary employee, always praised for her dedication and honesty. Even more surprising was learning that she had turned down several job offers with better salaries to continue working specifically at the millionaire's building. The investigation also revealed that the grandmother kept a notebook where she wrote down details about the millionaire's life that she observed through her work, not out of morbid curiosity, but out of genuine concern. She documented the days when she saw her crying in the office, when she didn't eat the lunch she ordered, when she stayed working until very late to avoid going home. It was as if the cleaner had become a silent guardian of her pain. Meanwhile, at the orphanage, the boy began to exhibit behaviors that worried the caregivers. He would wake up in the middle of the night talking about dreams where he played with a blonde girl in a garden full of butterflies. In these dreams, the girl always told him that her mother was very sad and needed someone to take care of her. Upon waking, the boy became agitated, insisting that he needed to go help the little friend's mom. The situation became complicated when distant relatives of the millionaire learned of her interest in adopting the orphan boy. Motivated purely by greed, they began to question her emotional stability and competence to care for a child. They argued that she had not yet recovered from the loss of her own daughter and that she could transfer her traumas to the boy. The greedy relatives, who had never shown genuine interest in her well-being, now appeared claiming concern for her fortune. They insinuated that the boy could be a child con artist trained to take advantage of her emotional vulnerability. These cruel accusations deeply hurt the millionaire, who was already struggling against her own insecurities about being able to love again. To make matters worse, social services began to question the millionaire's motivations. Skeptical social workers argued that very wealthy people sometimes adopted children on a whim or to improve their public image. They demanded extensive psychological evaluations and prolonged observation periods before approving any adoption process. During this difficult period, something extraordinary happened. The boy, who had won the affection of several children at the orphanage, spontaneously organized a small performance for the millionaire during one of her visits. He had taught the other children to sing a song that his grandmother used to sing to him, a song about finding family in the most unexpected places. The simple performance, given by abandoned children in the grey courtyard of the orphanage, touched the millionaire deeply. She realized that those children, despite all the losses and abandonments they had suffered, were still able to find joy and hope. The boy had become a natural little leader, spreading kindness and optimism even in difficult circumstances. It was at that moment that she made a decision that would change both their lives forever. Regardless of family opposition, the bureaucracies of social services, or her own fears, she would fight to adopt that special boy, not because he would fill the void left by her daughter, but because he deserved a family that loved him, and she deserved a chance to love again. However, at the exact moment she made that decision, a new twist shook her convictions. The director of the orphanage informed her that a middle-class family had expressed interest in adopting the boy. It was a young, childless couple who seemed perfect on paper, financially stable, without recent traumas, and with a lot of love to give. They had already started the legal adoption process and had priority, as they did not face the same objections surrounding the millionaire's application. When the boy learned of the possibility of being adopted by another family, his reaction was unexpected and devastating. He didn't cry or throw a tantrum as a normal child would. Instead, he was quiet and resigned, saying only that he hoped the new family would let him visit his special little friend at the cemetery. The premature maturity and silent sadness of the child broke the millionaire's heart, who realized that she was about to lose the only chance of redemption that fate had offered her. The news that another family wanted to adopt the boy awakened something fierce in the millionaire that she didn't know still existed within her. For the first time in 2 years, she felt a burning determination that reminded her of who she was before the tragedy consumed her life. Using all her influence and resources, she hired the best lawyers specializing in adoption and began a tireless legal battle. During the following weeks, she underwent all the required psychological evaluations, answered hundreds of invasive questions about her mental state, and opened her private life to public scrutiny. Each session was painful, forcing her to relive the loss of her daughter repeatedly, but she persisted with an inner strength that she hadn't felt for a long time. Meanwhile, the boy began to waste away at the orphanage. The possibility of being separated from the only person who had shown genuine love for him was destroying his resilient spirit. He stopped playing with the other children, refused to eat properly, and spent hours looking out the window in the direction where he believed the cemetery was. The great revelation that would change everything came through an unexpected medical discovery. During the routine examinations required for adoption, doctors performed detailed blood tests on the boy. To everyone's amazement, they discovered that he possessed an extremely rare blood type, present in only one person in a million. Even more shocking was learning that the millionaire's deceased daughter possessed exactly the same rare blood type. But the most impossible coincidence was yet to come. Genetic tests revealed that both children carried a specific genetic mutation that affects only one person in 5 million. This condition did not cause health problems, but it was like a unique genetic fingerprint. The probability of 2 unrelated children sharing these 2 rare characteristics simultaneously was statistically impossible. The doctors were so intrigued that they decided to investigate further. When they compared the boy's DNA with preserved samples of the millionaire's daughter, they discovered genetic compatibilities that suggested a much deeper connection than any coincidence could explain. It was as if the universe had conspired to unite those 2 souls in an inexplicable way. This medical discovery revolutionized the adoption case. The social workers, previously skeptical, were perplexed by the scientific evidence. How could they deny such a deep and mysterious connection? Nature itself seemed to be indicating that this boy and this woman should be together. The competing family, upon learning of these extraordinary revelations, voluntarily withdrew their application for adoption. They recognized that there were greater forces at play and that interfering with this cosmic connection would be wrong. The young couple visited the boy one last time to say goodbye, wishing him happiness with his new family. During this turbulent period, the millionaire made a final discovery that sealed her destiny with the boy. Upon more carefully reviewing the grandmother's belongings, she found a diary hidden in the lining of the suitcase. The yellowed pages contained notes dating back more than 4 years, starting exactly when the boy was born. The diary revealed that the grandmother had started having premonitory dreams shortly after her grandson's birth. She repeatedly dreamed of a rich and sad woman who would lose her little daughter, and clearly saw that this woman and her grandson were destined to meet. The dreams were so vivid that she even drew the millionaire's face months before getting the job at the building. Even more disturbing was the discovery that the grandmother had documented dreams where she saw her own future departure, knowing exactly when she would leave and how she should prepare her grandson to be alone temporarily. She had meticulously planned every detail, from teaching the boy about the cemetery to leaving the letters with specific instructions. The last entry in the diary, written just 3 days before her departure, said, "My grandson will soon find his true family. The woman of my dreams is suffering as much as he is, and together they will heal each other's wounds. I can depart in peace knowing that love always finds a way, even when it seems impossible." With all legal and bureaucratic barriers finally removed, the day of the official adoption arrived. The millionaire was nervous, but also felt a deep peace that she hadn't experienced in years. When she arrived at the orphanage to pick up the boy, she found him waiting in the lobby with his small suitcase and teddy bear, ready to start a new life. The most emotional moment came when they visited the tomb of the millionaire's daughter together the day after the adoption. The boy knelt beside the tombstone as he always did, but this time his words were different. He told his special little friend that he now had a mother who would take care of him and promised to continue visiting her always, but now accompanied. To the millionaire's surprise, the boy then turned to her and said, "Grandma told me that when I found my new family, I should give this to my new mother." He took out of his pocket a small, butterfly-shaped brooch that had belonged to her daughter, something she thought she had lost forever at the hospital during the girl's last days. The grandmother had found the brooch on the floor of the office months before, but instead of handing it over immediately, she had saved it instinctively, knowing that it should be returned at the right time. It was the last gift from the daughter to her mother, delivered through the caring hands of the child who would fill the void in her heart. In the following months, a miraculous transformation happened in both lives. The boy blossomed in his new home, revealing exceptional artistic talents and a rare emotional intelligence. He helped the millionaire rediscover the joy of living, while she provided him with the security and unconditional love he had always deserved. The millionaire channeled part of her fortune to create a program to help orphaned children, honoring both the memory of her daughter and the wisdom of the boy's grandmother. She discovered that using her wealth to help others brought a renewed purpose to her life, transforming her pain into strength to do good. 1 year after that first meeting in the cemetery under the rain, they returned to the site together. But this time, there were no tears of sadness. The boy had grown and was radiant with happiness, while the millionaire smiled genuinely for the first time in years. They planted colorful flowers around the tomb, transforming it into a beautiful garden where 3 souls, one who departed and 2 who met, could be eternally connected through love that transcends even human understanding. The story proved that sometimes fate works in mysterious ways, weaving impossible connections between hearts that need to heal together. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment on what you thought of my story, giving it a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you very much.